There we go.
Welcome, episode 49, live and pre-recorded. Tonight, there's Jeff, who's kind of over on the left. There's me, Colin, and in between, posing in the middle, Louise and Alby Granger from our local comic shop, Little Shop of Heroes. So, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
Hi.
Need to get used to the.
We've been trying to get you guys on for quite a while, so this is absolutely amazing.
We're notoriously unreliable. Yeah. When I say we, I should say me. I am notoriously unreliable. Sorry. Apologies.
Well, unreliability is kind of going to be a flavour of the conversation a little bit. I mean, like you know, Alby, where are my comics? I've been waiting for months for my comics. I mean, you'd think there was a global pandemic or something.
I know. Where are your comics? That's the great question at the moment. Interesting, hasn't it?
Yeah, for the first time in what, 2 and a bit months, you had a delivery of comics, and I managed to get a couple of books that I've been waiting for. But clearly there's been some difficulties with the coronavirus pandemic. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that, Alby. What's been happening from your perspective?
We've not been getting any stock in a good way. So this all kicked off globally at the end of March. Pretty much instantly, the major distributor, which we'll come back to in a minute, but all the major comic book publishers and all the big indies said, we're going to stop making comics. We realised that some of you are closed, some of you are being told that you must close, some of you are allowed to open, but for the sake of it all being an equal playing field, we're going to stop shipping comics. This was mostly due to the USA. The UK comics industry doesn't have a massive effect on the decisions that are made over the pond, which we'll again allude to in a moment. And that's what happened. We stopped receiving, overnight, we just stopped receiving comics. It was as simple as that. Then Diamond UK, which is the UK distributor of comics, because of social distancing and the legislation, had to close its warehouse in any case. So we stopped receiving back issue comics, and we stopped receiving books and trade paperbacks as well. So we went from being a new release business, which gets product every week for release every Wednesday. And that is sort of 80% of the driver of our business. It's return customers coming up and picking up their periodical comics, to having no new stock overnight. Which sounds catastrophic, and kind of is. But given that also under the UK's decisions, we had to close the store for safety reasons, it was good. The last thing we wanted was to be continually receiving new release comics that we couldn't do anything with. The only thing that would have happened in that instance, everyone who buys comics would have had a giant stack of comics that they had to come and collect when we eventually opened, and we would have had massive bills and no means to make any money to pay the bills. So it was the better of the two evils, to be perfectly honest with you. We were very, very happy that everyone decided we're just stopping for a while. Now, It's easy for us. We're not comic book writers or artists who are having to make a living doing that. But from a retailer's perspective, it was absolutely the best thing that anyone could have done. And that's where we were up until this week, which was 10 weeks ago. So we've had kind of 10 weeks of nothing. And then last week we got a new release comic delivery, which was fabulous. Opening the boxes was really exciting. There was much happiness in the shop. There was a lot of squealing from Sinead as the piles of books that she'd pre-ordered months ago were coming out of the boxes onto our table to get sorted out. It was absolutely fantastic. And there's been a lot of happy customers this week, as we said.
Yeah, you've been quite fortunate that you've been able to kind of go to a mail order or local delivery or local pickup kind of model rather than
There's
having
been
the
a couple
store
of things that
open.
we've spoken about over the last couple of years. We've got an overstock. We love books and we keep on getting them in. And with the best will in the world, they aren't all necessarily the most popular of titles. So you end up getting left with some books that you love, but they've been on your shelf for 4 years. And your love for them has grown over that time. But it's time to let them fly the nest. So we decided to get our fingers out and do something that we should have done years ago, which was get all our books onto our website. And so we did that. And also we decided to go through our back issue books and say, if they've been in the shop for X amount of time, it's time to say goodbye to them. Let's just slash them down to a stupid price and get them listed and see what happens. So we did that with Marvel and we did that with DC and we got all our indies on our website. And that's kind of what we've been living off of for the last 10 weeks, posting them out or hand delivering them to people's houses in the local area. So we've anywhere within, I'm going to say it, 5 miles, anywhere within a 5-mile range, we can hand deliver them. And if it's outside of a 5-mile range, we post them. And that's what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And it's been enough to keep part of the business in a wage. There's 3 of us in the business, and it's been able to keep one of us with a wage. And it's kept the bills getting paid, so our electricity and all these things that you kind of get told, it's okay, you can defer these payments. Deferring payments doesn't make them go away, it just makes them bigger and bigger and bigger for when you come back. And we want you to try and avoid that at all costs. So that's what that's allowed us to do. It's allowed us to just keep on top of everything. And when we do open up again, we're not behind. We should be a case of starting off. I was going to say where we were when this started, but actually, ironically for us, we'll be in a better position than we were when we started, because we'll have had that sort of 2-3 month break, 2-3 months respite from big bills to allow us to kind of get back on our feet again. In no way would I ever describe the COVID-19 pandemic as a benefit to anyone. But for us, it's given us a mental break as well. We haven't been off for more than 3 days in the last 8 years. And we have now. And it's kind of refreshed our enthusiasm for the shop and enthusiasm for the product, and allowed us to really get on top of some things we should have sorted out before now.
And it's something that will continue as well. We'll continue, because we don't know how long we will continue doing online, continue posting, continue delivering for anyone that needs it or can't get to the shop.
I don't mind delivering.
It's quite nice to go out for a wee drive on a Saturday evening or something.
It's pretty serious as well.
So nice.
Also, I get a nosy at folks' houses as well.
We know where everyone lives now. So
so when they come in, I can kind of look at them and think, demographics wise, how good is their house? Right, Sinead, let's take them to the big book section.
With that in mind as well, I can only apologise for my new dog.
All dogs are very welcome.
See, Atticus has finally got off me now, so it's a bit comfier.
It's great. I've really loved it, and it's been a real benefit, because it means that I've gotten, although I haven't been up close and personal with people, I've been sort of 15 feet away at the end of the garden, and we've been able to have conversations, which has been quite nice during this.
Of course, that's a massive part of Little Shop of Heroes for many customers as well. That's a bit, obviously. It's a big part of the experience for me, is coming in to see you guys when I'm collecting my books.
We really miss it. We do miss the social aspect of the shop. It's as big or bigger a deal for us, or as big or bigger an element of the business for us than it is for customers. And we like seeing people coming into the shop. We like chatting and making a coffee and just talking about various things.
It is a community. It's really important. It's you know.
So we thought it was all going to start coming together again, and we've been told that new releases will be out fortnightly for the meantime instead of weekly, and we were planning on that, and then boom, DC dropped the bomb. So DC, who are, to give people a perspective, if they're not intimately involved in comics, they're about a third of the entire comic book industry. You could sort of say DC are a third, Marvel are a third, everyone else is the other third. So it's a huge deal for all comic book shops. Any shops that sell weeklies or monthlies, DC are a big deal. And for the last 20 years, they've been distributed everywhere in the world by a company called Diamond Comics. There's Diamond Comics and there's Diamond Comics UK, and we're just going to call them Diamond for the sake of this conversation. And they have exclusively distributed kind of all of the world's comics for the last 20 years, which sounds horrifying, but they've kind of been a bit of a benign dictatorship. They've ploughed a lot of money into the industry to try and make the supply chain quite smooth and seamless. They've invested a lot of money in their back-end systems so we can easily tell if we're going to get an item or not, and how much it's going to cost us and when it will be with us. And all these things kind of matter. And also, when shops have been struggling, they've stuck their hands in their pockets as well to keep them afloat, rather than see small shops go to the wall. So monopolies in general aren't really to be encouraged, but Diamond have done a lot of good for the comic book industry. The comic book industry is a history of enormous peaks and equally as precipitous troughs. The booms and busts are ridiculous in the comic book industry. It is a nonsense. And we're obviously all buffoons, so we don't actually squirrel money away when we're having the peaks. We all just spend it all on drugs and hookers.
No, we don't.
And we don't. No, we all just
and beer. Beer as well.
We all just buy. We all just spend loads of money on getting really niche books and comics in that we otherwise wouldn't have a punt on. And then when the market crashes again, you're on your uppers again. It's kind of ridiculous. And Diamond have sort of smoothed that out for everyone. But DC have decided that they are going to, from the end of this month, not going to use Diamond as their distributor.
During a worldwide pandemic.
So timing-wise, it could have been better. But yeah, there's no good time.
That's DC just restructuring their business model at a time where
DC are owned now. They're owned by AT&T.
Yeah.
So Warner's owns DC. AT&T own Warner's. AT&T just paid $108 billion for that huge company.
18 months ago, I think it was.
And there's a global pandemic, and they've got to pay $10 billion a month or something ridiculous in interest. So they've got to try and maximize their money. And I don't have the ins and outs, but I'm assuming they're getting a better deal from their new distributors than they were getting from Diamond. The thing that's really sticking in people's throats in the comics industry, I suppose, is one, the short notice. It was very, very short notice. Diamond found out about 15 minutes before the rest of the world found out. So there was that. And so they've not had a chance to organize or plan an exit strategy. And the other big deal is that the two exclusive distributors that DC have chosen are both massive online comic companies. So companies who have got enormous online businesses selling comics at discounted prices that bricks and mortar stores can't sell. So now we're having to buy our goods not from DC directly or from a distributor who does nothing but distribute to comic stores, but we're having to buy our books from our competitors. And it's like Tesco having to buy all their groceries from Asda.
Yeah.
And then having to then resell them. We're told that it's going to be completely fair and even-handed, and there'll be no preferential treatment given to themselves by themselves. And I would love to believe that, and I hope it does happen. I hope that transpires. And looking on the bright side, it's now no longer a monopoly. So we've got a choice. There's 2 different distributors that we can choose from, and if one of them sucks, we can move to the other one and hope that they don't. But also, they're American, and they really aren't set up to distribute internationally. And the situation as up to now was the comic shops in the UK and the comic book readers in the UK could pick up their books and their comics on the same day, on the same release date as they could in the US. So there was no penalty for being a UK comic book reader. You could buy your new copy of The Flash at exactly the same time and exactly the same day as a comic book reader in Texas or New York or Los Angeles or anywhere in the States. And I just don't think that that's going to be practical, because they've got to get shipped from DC to this distributor, who's then got to separate all the items and then send them, instead of sending them in a giant container across to Diamond, who then divvies it all up and sends it all out to the shops. They've got to individually box them and stick a UPS label on it, and then UPS has got to deliver it to X amount of hundreds of international stores. Mm-hmm. So I suspect that what's going to happen is that they're not routinely going to be available on the same release date. Perhaps the release date in the UK will by default they'll be out 1 week after, but if they come in before then, we'll sell them.
Yeah.
So it takes away that concrete thing.
Plus, the DC have changed the release date to a Tuesday.
And they also decided in their wisdom that they would change the release date to a Tuesday.
That's it, wrong.
all other comics are released on a Wednesday, apart from DC, which are released on a Tuesday. It's just a bit of a mess.
Just to send you
quickly. It's happening very, very quickly. And as of this moment, there is no solution to it for UK retailers, other than we're kind of banding together in small groups ourselves and trying to work something out in the hope that Diamond UK can work something out with DC directly, in which case we'll probably still get them from Diamond UK. But we don't know yet, and the cut-off for us getting our comics on time, the first release in the new regime is Sunday. So we have to order the comics that we will be getting when the new regime takes over by Sunday. So there isn't an awful lot of time to mess about. It's a challenge. And the other issue, of course, is that we've no idea how much we're going to be paying for these comics. We don't know how much we're paying for the individual comics, and don't know how much the shipping is going to be. And in fact, the shipping will be different every week depending on the weight of the box they're sending us.
Yeah.
So we have no idea how much we're going to be paying per comic, which means really we've no idea how much we can charge per comic. We certainly can't be in a situation where you come in to buy your Batman comic 1 week and it's £3.90, and then you come in the next week and it's £3.95. And then the following week, it's £3.90 again because the box is more expensive. So at some point,
£4.
you kind of got to take a hit and say, well, we're kind of going to guess that this is sort of the price that it might be, and then we'll just have to suck it up for a while and see what it works out as an average. It's all really weird and ill-conceived, but Diamond US and AT&T and DC are massive multinational companies, and the UK comics industry is tiny. In fact, the world industry for US comics is tiny, outside of the US. So I don't know what the percentages are. I should have known, but a generous estimate would probably be 15% everywhere else, 85% US. And at that kind of split, you don't really factor in the disturbance or the disruption or any potential problems for your other customers, do you?
Particularly if they're able to make any sort of disruption in their profits internationally. If you're making the saving nationally through delivery costs and things by using a new distributor, it's
that's right. So it's all a bit weird.
It's just up in the air right now. We just don't know.
And the things that aren't being talked about, or aren't being spoken about, rather, are that if we stop buying our comics from Diamond, that reduces our spend with Diamond by 35 to 40% in a month, which then affects the discount level we get from Diamond because it reduces our spend with them by 40%. So that drops us down sort of several discount tiers, which actually means that it will be more expensive for us for all of our product, not just DC. And that also means that potentially Diamond lose 40% of their business overnight.
Yeah.
And they're distributors.
You have to ask the question.
They're making like a cent on a comic. So they're a volume business. Now they don't make a lot of money per comic. They make a couple of cents on a comic. If they suddenly lose 40% of their income, then it's very difficult to see how that would continue to be a viable business model.
Yeah, completely. And from a consumer's point of view, you're kind of reading all these kind of articles on the various comic sites. You're hearing creators, you're reading creators posting on social media and trying to piece together exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
And, well, you've kind of explained the situation very well. So we have an understanding of the situation, but, it's unclear as to how that's going to resolve itself in any time in the future.
It's very unclear, and the reality is that it has to resolve in the next 2 days.
Yeah.
For it to not disrupt the UK and European release dates, it has to resolve in the next 2 days. So what we've done is we've set up an account with one of the distributors. And if push comes to shove, we'll order it directly and we'll make sure our customers get the comics in as timely a manner as anyone else in the UK will be getting their comics. And we'll kind of just have to see what the costs are when they come in. We'll make sure there's an undisrupted flow of product. And we are, despite the fact that it's a business of hundreds in the UK, a small number of hundreds, but we're all independents, really. There's no, other than Forbidden Planet, there's no real big chain of comic book stores selling weeklies in the UK. So it requires us all getting in contact with one another on Facebook groups and things like that. And over time, we will get together in these groups and we will find a way forward that's more, it might be a cooperative of some sort. It might be a buying group of some type. One of the stores may have the flexibility and the budget and the space to get all of the product in and then ship it out. And as what, so all these things are possibilities and the fact are probabilities, but not in the space of time that we were given to organise it. That it's more of a timing issue, and the imperative to get it done as quickly as possible. That's what's creating.
Especially as a lot of people aren't even in the shops at the moment. A lot of shops are doing the same as what we've been doing, delivering and posting and such like, and collection at the door. But yeah, it's really, really strange.
I mean, conceivably, if you're not a shop owner who I know most of us will be, but if you're not a shop owner that looks at the forums and looks at the news sites, who knows? You might not even know yet. Diamond have certainly not made a statement about it.
No, we're still waiting. So we don't know.
You might not even know. You could come into your shop on Monday. You could be going into your closed down shop once a week just to make sure everything's fine. Flick open your emails and discover that actually the distributor that you thought you'd ordered the next 2 months worth of DC Comics from is no longer a thing, and you're not getting the next 2 months worth of DC Comics.
It's just very disruptive and
that's
very
complicated.
That's
quite a big deal for you.
Totally.
So yeah, it's very odd. DC have come out of the pandemic poorly from a customer service perspective. Quite apart from this, they were the ones that broke we're not releasing things first. They started pushing stock out to shops much earlier than everyone else. You would have found within the comics book industry much more of a bias, if you like, towards giving DC the benefit of the doubt and Marvel were the bad guys. And I think there's been a big shift in that in the last 10 weeks. Marvel have come out of this quite well in the way that they've treated their customers, i.e. their readers, and their retailers also. Yeah, it's been a bit of a change. I would absolutely have been in the DC camp up to 2 months ago. I don't know whether the head of DC, Dan Didio, left very dramatically and very quickly a few months ago. And I don't know whether this was in the pipeline at that point and whether he was pushed or whether he jumped, or you don't know any of these things. And I suppose the problem is that in a vacuum of information, everyone tries to fill it. So, and there's been a lot of things. There's going to be a lot of anger and passion out there in the forums at the moment because it's an industry that's based on passion from the readers and the owners. We're kind of all passionate about it, and for the writers and the artists. So there's a lot of emotion within the industry. So when something happens that you feel might be a threat, then you react in that instant way. And what we've tried to do in the shop, myself, Louise, and Sinead, is not react in that instant way. Is to just kind of look at the information that we have, try and find a way forward that works for us and works for our customers, and then we'll let it develop over time and see how it goes, rather than kind of kick off and go off on some mad rant, there's been a lot of mad ranting going on. And the stores out there who are saying, I'm never going to stock DC again. And I can respect that because they kind of have dealt with us quite poorly. But also, we are a service industry, and if 35% of our customers want to buy stuff from DC, then it seems a bit daft to cut off your nose to spite your face. We'll find a way of making it work.
Yes, so hopefully it's going to resolve itself fairly soon.
It will.
More imminently, probably, though, you've got the possibility of small shops like yourselves starting to reopen.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. We're ready. We're not ready, but we have a plan of readiness. So as soon as Nicola comes out and tells us that we're going to be going into phase 2, which I think we'll probably get a couple of weeks' notice, or at least 1 week's notice.
So next week, she'll let people know.
So we're kind of guessing that it'll be the first week in July-ish.
So even if we can sort of say, next week you can open, we'll maybe wait properly until July just to get everything sorted and get information out there, because again, all shopping experiences are going to be different now. And again, we're a small shop, and it depends on social distancing and how many people we can have in the shop at a time. And so we'll just need to make sure that we get all the information out there for all of our customers coming in.
I mean, obviously, we'd like as few of you as possible in the shop.
Understandably.
At one time. For your help.
Indeed.
No. So what we are going to do is we are going to have the shop will be open. It may initially only be open Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we'll be allowing a person or family group in at a time. So we've got quite a small shop. It's quite long, but it's not very wide. So maintaining the social distancing with more than that in the shop is going to be quite tricky. Which is why we've said a family group will be fine, but we can't really, with the size of shop we have 3 or 4 different people in there and maintain the 2 meter safe distance. So we'll go with it that way. If you're on your own, that's great. If you're in a family group or a group of people that you've been regularly meeting and you're come to the shop, then you will all be allowed in. But then it will be a case of anyone else would have to wait outside until you were ready to leave. You could leave and then the next person could come in. And we're going to have hand sanitizer outside the door and inside the door. So you'll be able to sanitize your hands before you come in and before you leave. And I'm going to have one of those Perspex bus driver screens up at the counter as well. So yes, and we'll be ready. The shop is already gets cleaned sort of it's one of those unusual comic stores that gets cleaned. So
I do a lot of cleaning.
It's quite hygienic.
It's good to know.
And we would prefer people, obviously. The big issue we're going to have is that it's a kind of a browsing shop. People don't. You want to pick up a book and have a flick through.
So again, if people use hand sanitizer before they come in the door, and then they don't cough into their hands or put them anywhere else they shouldn't, then it should be okay.
So we know if the books are fine before you come in, and we've made you clean your hands, then they should be fine when you leave. So we'd still like the experience to be the same. We'd still like you to be able to stand and chat and sit in the window and be relaxed. It's not as if we're a high street store where we've got this constant stream of people coming through. If you come during the week, there's times where there may only be one person in the space of an hour or 2 anyway. It's not like we're swamped with people beating the tracks to our door.
That would be nice.
That would be lovely. But it shouldn't be too big an issue for us. And we've got the measures will be in place. And if it means that I'm more muffled behind the barrier, then that's all to the good, probably. Saves everyone.
Yeah, we don't like him on the shop floor. It's chaos. I'm a menace. Chaos when he's on the shop floor. So, yeah.
I think we all know comic shops that have got especially kind of back issue shops that have got piles of stuff that are waiting to avalanche at any moment. And they're certainly going to have a bit more difficulty in terms of cleanliness and hygiene.
Yeah, that's I suppose downstairs is the big. I suppose because everything's bagged and boarded and it's all very clean. But downstairs, of course, we've got all our single issues and they're not bagged and boarded, so that potentially could cause more of a problem. I think we'll be fine. We're going to be very careful.
Yeah, might even leave downstairs for another month or something. You know, we might not even just let people down for the first month. And
frankly, I know it sounds it's a weird thing to say. I don't want anyone getting ill because we decided that we were going to let half a dozen people come into the shop at the same time. We just can't safely do that. So we'd rather be cautious. We kind of support the slow, cautious approach to releasing the lockdown. Economics, personal or global, can't really take precedence over people's well-being. So we've made it to this point, and I've got hands up. I've got to say that much as I despise Tories, individually and as a group,
you could have given us a wee
You know what? The money from a small business perspective, that small business grant for us has made it possible for us to go into the lockdown and then be able to emerge at the end of the lockdown. Without that small business grant, that wouldn't have happened. We would close. We would have closed on the 25th of March, and we wouldn't then reopen. That would be it. We would be closed now. So I'm very glad that money existed and that we got it. And we really need to be open. We really, really need to be open now. But you can't put a cash value on someone's life.
That was exactly what Claire had exactly the same concerns, and obviously that grant for her has been vital as well, because it was she is close, and she's one of the kind of businesses that were permitted to continue, but she just didn't want to because the Happy Earth place doesn't run like a traditional food store. It's not it's not a come in come out thing, and she couldn't have maintained the business experience and the shopping experience that she wanted to maintain.
Yeah.
And again, she's already built up a community. She has this community, and it's really important.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's the same for Claire as it is for us. Our customers aren't faceless. And I'm not trying to suggest that if you're Tesco or Asda, you don't care about your customers, because even companies like those care for their customers. But they're not faceless in their stores. We know people's kids, and we know their jobs, and we know if they've not been well, and we know where they're going on holiday, and we know everything about people, and people know everything about us.
Way too much.
And no, it's not. A few pounds isn't worth it. It just isn't worth it. I would rather us have had to have closed than to have on my conscience someone having died because we decided that, hey,
what the hell?
Well, we'll just go for it anyway. It's a stupid way to look at things.
So we're very fortunate.
So we've been very, very fortunate
with the money. We're fortunate with the fact that we have great customers who still continue to support us. The ones that have been doing, which is, again, that means a lot to us. So yeah. It's
a family business for family people, for local people. And it's got a scary cellar. Hey. But no, we are really, really looking forward to it. I'm going to get in some extra special coffee beans just for the occasion, so we can celebrate with exotic coffee beans. And I will also make sure that we've got plenty of alcohols in the shop as well. So for those people who are on foot, they can celebrate our reopening with a little tipple if they wish.
And hopefully sometime in the future we can have a party, or we'll maybe do
we want to do a quiz.
Night. We want to do a quiz.
We want to do a not pub quiz again in the shop or somewhere else. So it'd be a really good way to celebrate reopening again. Would be to have a not pub quiz.
When we can have more than 10 people.
Yeah, it would be a really rubbish quiz if it was just me, Louise, Sinead, and the one person or family group that we're allowing in.
So hopefully towards the end of the year, hopefully by Christmas.
Yeah, hopefully by Christmas.
It will be over by Christmas.
Well,
we'll see.
It will all be different by Christmas. I suspect that it will be far from over by Christmas, but it'll certainly be different by Christmas. And we're doing better than a lot of the major businesses. I mean, you look at some huge companies with huge overheads, even with the furloughing people, they've got big issues that we don't have, and we haven't had to defer paying anything. But we know that our landlord Jim is fantastic. He's a great guy. We've never had any issues with him. He's never had any issues with us. He's had more issues with us than we've had with him. And he's always been really generous spirited. And we know that if we'd
said... Let's just say us, Alby, but is it genuinely the collective us, or is it you?
Oh, no, but I'm going to say us. We're going to include everyone. But I know that he would have been fine with it. He would say, he's the sort of landlord that would say, no, okay, you don't have to pay me this month because it's kind of an unusual circumstance. So we've been very, very fortunate, and a lot of people haven't been as fortunate as we have. I'm not sure that every comic shop that closed on the 20-something of March will reopen again. I'm not sure that the DC decision and the Diamond situation at the moment, that might be the final straw for some people who have been thinking about whether it's worth opening again.
Whether it's worth having a comic shop.
And our comic shop isn't... I think that a lot of comic shops are like ours. A lot of them are very community-based. And losing shops like that, wherever they may be across the UK, is going to be sad. Because it's a group of people that may not have anywhere else to go. I mean, I know that sounds tragic if the only place you can go to is the comic shop. Frankly, I've nowhere else to go. So
that's why we're still there. No one else would take us now.
Because you're in here all the time. There's a reason for that.
But shops like ours are important in the community where people can come and feel safe and chat about anything, no matter how they're feeling, what kind of day they're having, what's happened in their life. They know they can come in, they can chat if they want to, they can sit and read a comic if they want to, they can just be in the shop and not speak if they don't want to. It's
because we know if you come through the door, and we can tell if you've had a shitty day or you're feeling vulnerable or there's just something off, and we'll make sure that we can try and do something to help that. And that we're not unusual in that. We're not some sort of super comic store or private. There's lots and lots of small businesses, and lots of small businesses serve that function in addition to their core, the business name that's above the door. It might say loose food goods. It might say comic books. It might say any number of things, but they serve a function as a community stop-in place. And if this situation with the global pandemic, and specifically with the comic stores in the UK, the DC situation, it's a tragic piece of fallout from a multinational making a decision without any thought to the end users. If the end users' lives are disproportionately affected because of an accountant somewhere has said, we'll make an extra cent a copy on these comics. Well, their lives are worth more than your cent, so... But they will never see it that way. They will never see it that way. And that's sad.
Yes,
that's cheery.
Yes.
Well,
drinking, we haven't had that part of the conversation yet. And no, we've had a conversation beforehand, but obviously we have not. I don't think we've shared our beers, and I think anybody that's been watching for more than a couple of minutes has seen that we're all swigging. So, what did you guys bring to the drinking?
Louise?
I've got my Warrior Queen,
which is a local brewery.
Yeah, Lochleven Brewery.
Yes.
I just thought that
it's a very local brewery.
Yeah. And I like this one more in the summer. I just find it a lighter one for this time of year.
And I've got another.
We've reviewed them very well in the past, Lochleven, but I think I just saw Steel Coulson, which is a really well-established pub in Edinburgh, has just started stocking their stuff, so that's really good. And sorry, you had is it only gold you're drinking?
On another note with Lochleven, I think that they've got a distribution deal with tenants now.
Oh.
So I think that means that they'll be going into tenants tied pubs. So
that's
they'll probably find that their beers in a much wider range of bars.
It's great. It's a great
Yeah,
beer.
They do really well. Festival. I was at the festival in Edinburgh last year, and I was able to get Kingslayer.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, which I was told baffled by at the time. I was like, it was in like an outdoor bar on Princes Street, and I was like, oh, but it was quite incredible. And so that's twice.
That is so different from Warrior Queen, though. It's such a heavy beer compared to Warrior Queen, which is kind of quite light and hoppy and fresh and summery. And Kingslayer is, well, none of those things. It's a very traditional Scottish dark.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Well, I've got Orkney Gold. It's the first time I've had Orkney Gold. It's from the Orkney Brewery. Again, previous beers I've had from this brewery have always been on the very heavy side, very dark beers, which I kind of favour. I like that style of beer. I like sort of 90 shilling and heavy and all these types of beer. I am, if nothing, a cliche. So I've got my heavy beer and my whiskey. So yeah. But this one is not that at all. It's quite fresh and zesty and hoppy, and quite refreshing. So very similar to the Warrior Queen. It's quite a summery beer, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But again, a Scottish brewery. I have to hold my hands up and say I would normally buy my craft beer from the Caledonian Craft Beer Company. I bought this from multinational supermarket today, because I wasn't at work and the craft beer shop wasn't open. So I did buy that at a supermarket. But hey, it's a good beer. And I'm also drinking a 15-year-old Dalmore malt whiskey, which, if anyone is looking for a whiskey to drink, I would implore you to buy a 15-year-old Dalmore, because it is drinking heaven.
Yeah, but I don't like the smell. So.
I swear that I've tried so many whiskeys, and it is literally like drinking bliss.
Oh.
So yeah, that's quite
right.
Nice.
We should just mention Father's Day is coming up soon.
Yeah. I should also mention that the chances of me getting a £60 bottle of whiskey from Sinead for Father's Day is, given that she works in a comic shop, 0. So yeah, that was as for myself. I decided that I was going to buy every year. On my birthday, I was going to buy a bottle of whiskey that cost the same amount of the age I had gotten to. And I bought this when I was 51. And they had it reduced from £60 to 51, so I bought it then, and it's magnificent. And you're drinking? So, I don't drink very much, but I've got lots of half-drunk bottles of whiskey.
Colin, what are you drinking?
So, Inner Bay Breweries, local brewery in Inverkeithing. And they kind of shut down production for a bit, but the local beer shop just along the road from Little Shop of Heroes got some in last week, and I bought up a whole bunch of them. So this one is Tiger's Eye. They're all named after semi-precious stones.
Okay.
So this is Tiger's Eye. It's I think 6.5%, and it's very sort of tropical flavored.
Okay.
Fruited, really juicy IPA, which is kind of a popular type thing at the moment. Of big, juicy IPA, a lot of flavour. I'm quite enjoying this. I don't know if I've had this before. I think maybe just a little taster before. So I had a whole bottle, but really like this.
So is the water drawn directly from the docks then? Directly from Inverkeithing Harbour?
Perhaps.
Hope not.
That's probably what gives it this full-bodied flavour.
Direct from the outflow of Captain Jack's.
It's not that it's that colour because of all the rust from the ships that are broken down in the past at that harbour.
I ordered 2 Opal from Inner Bay. That's my probably my current favourite beer just now. Innerby do have a raspberry wheat beer called Opal. I don't know if I mentioned this last week in the podcast, but I did put my order in to the craft beer merchant and receive. Only give you one Opal, despite the fact you've ordered two because Collins bought the other one. Cheers, mate.
And I've still got it.
I do like fruit beer, so you would recommend that then?
It's very unusual.
That's currently the problem here at the moment. I picked up them from a supermarket today, and they're very good. Tesco's do a thing. I believe it's monthly where they update the breweries that they get their craft beers from.
Okay.
And I've noticed in the last couple of months it's been beers that I would associate with getting from smaller sort of craft beer shops like the Craft Beer Merchant. So, for example, I've got Right Times, which is by Magic Rock and Salt. It's one of their collaborations. That was really nice. That was really juicy. That was an IPA that was 6.5%. That was really nice. And then Vocation did a collaboration with Manchester Marble Brewery, which again, Vocation are one of those breweries I want to say that the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant get in, and then before I get up there to buy it, it's gone because they maybe it's low number of cases.
Yeah.
So I was really going to get that, and I've got it here just now, and it's
So a question for you both, if you don't mind. What's your feelings about the proliferation of craft beers into supermarkets? So, I mean, my view on it would be, obviously if I had a craft brewery and I was getting orders for all of my product, then that would mean I'd be able to continue developing more products and releasing them and getting them out to people. But also, I'm also conscious of the fact that there's people like my local craft beer shop owner who now is in competition with people when they're out getting their weekly shopping.
Yeah.
So they don't have to make the special journey to get them from him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what Colin at the Craft Beer Merchant's done is he does get stuff that you're just not going to get in your supermarket. He's going for the breweries that only do the kind of special stuff, a small run of something, and he gets that in and it sells out, really quickly. So he is going for a kind of more niche market. And I go and pick up some of these craft beers in the supermarkets and stuff, but they are for mass market. They're for a bland palate.
Yeah.
They're to appeal to a lot of people who normally drink lager or whatever, and maybe just go, let's just try that, and it's not going to offend them.
Yeah.
If they don't like it, they're just going to, it was okay, but I won't buy it because it was only £1.29 or something. But if you go to your craft beer shop, you're going to get something really special, and you're also going to get that advice because they'll get to know you, what you like. It's like coming to the comic shop. You said you know your customers well, so you often recommend stuff to folk that come in. And it's just like that in the beer shop. You're not going to get that in Asda. That's not going to happen.
No, that's true.
Me and Colin, there's definitely a thing where me and Colin, where I'll message Colin if I find something like in the supermarket that's actually surprisingly good, because I don't know. I think it probably comes down to that mass market thing that Colin's mentioned. But there's this whole thing where, like, when you buy from when I buy craft beer from the supermarket, I am expecting it not to be as good. And we do have a thing sometimes where, like, there was one last week that comes to mind that I bought from Asda. I actually messaged Colin. I was like, yeah, this shouldn't cost. If I bought this from a shop like the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant or a small independent craft beer shop, I wouldn't have been complaining, and it was like $1.50. So every so often you do get something that's really good, but personally you also get stuff that's quite bland sometimes, or by comparison. And like Colin says, the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant will people look for smaller, more niche stuff that you wouldn't get in the supermarket, which is a big draw as well. And there have been occasions, I believe, where he has stopped selling things because they become widely available elsewhere. So
well, that makes sense.
The bottom line has become just untenable and unnecessary to maintain. So
okay. And they also have that community, like you were talking about, your community of people. You know, I can go into the beer shop and other customers will chat to me and give me recommendations, or we'll debate something, you know, or they'll have brewers along, like you would have, you know, a comic book signing, you know, so they have brewers along, you can taste stuff, you can, you know, buy stuff, you know, get to know them. And that makes such a huge difference if that is what you're really into. You're not just going along to pick up a dozen cans, you know, for your weekend or whatever, you know.
Just things like you said, the community thing is really, really important. I don't know about anyone else. I don't know if there's a correlation between lockdown and this, but I've smashed loads of my pint glasses in the last 3 months. I don't know if they're just getting more use, but I know one of my pint glasses was smashed by Claire, and she felt dreadful about it. And she was on quite a big wellness walk with one today, and walked past the Caledonian craft beer merchant, and I'd asked her, if you're going that way, can you pick up my beer? And she'd gone, and she'd actually said to Colin, look, I've smashed one of Jeff's glasses. And Colin, knowing me and knowing my buying habits, was able to say, oh, it'll be one of these ones. So my new tiny
brilliant. And I like the fact that Colin's been able to do what he's been able. He's done a similar thing as well. He does you order online from him now, and it's a kind of it's a bag at the door situation, and you just have to step away. So it's all very strange to pick up your craft beer. And I would have to say that there's a very strong crossover between the beer shop and the comic shop. We share a very common customer base.
Indeed.
And like, you know,
We really do share a very common customer base.
That's why we exist as a podcast, because that thing happened.
You're spending a random Thursday evening chatting to us because that happened to you.
Yeah.
And it's great because with all the best will in the world, I was desperate for another barbers or hairdressers to not open in the Maygate. The Maygate barbers and hairdressers are a wonderful group of people, and I love them all dearly, but I have no need for their services. and for the sake of the Maygate being a more interesting street, I was desperate for something other than a hairdresser's or beauty salon or barber's to open. So when Colin decided to open up, it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good for the street.
It's good for the street. And it's good for Dunfermline. It's good. It makes it an interest. It's kind of street where you would want to find quirky, small, independent businesses operating.
A comic shop, a beer shop, an antique shop. That's what you want.
Yeah, you want to find lots of different artisan shops. The chap on the end, if he ever opens as a bespoke jewellers, it's great if we can get more of that type of shop in Dunfermline. Yeah,
absolutely. We totally support that. It'd be great to have more of that in town.
Just not another comic shop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not going to happen, I don't think. I can imagine. Do you mean the DC shop?
Yeah, that's what it is. The DC shop.
Oh, no, don't call him. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if we just wanted to chat to you. As I say, we wanted to have you on for so long. It's amazing you're here. So.
Well, as you're aware, that I don't mind talking.
He doesn't mind talking. You'd never know.
I've been starved of my audience for the last 10 weeks.
Doing college work. He finished his college work.
I'm actually massively surprised it took you 46 minutes to bring to slag off our governing political party, which I think actually must be a record.
And if we're about to wrap this up now, which it sounds like we are, all I'm going to say to you is universal basic income, and that's it. That's it. That's my last word.
And it has been talked about recently as well, hasn't
Nicola's in favour of universal basic income, but she has no authority to do it.
Yeah.
So
Yet.
we've got to kick the Tories out and get independence, and then we can start treating each other like human beings.
Awesome. I'm all for that.
Okay.
And universal basic craft beer as well.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Slange.
Cheers.
I was actually going to try and put a wee ticker on the bottom of the screen there saying the views of Alby, though are.
I've already posted on our Facebook saying the views expressed are absolutely the views of Little Shop of Heroes. Apart from Sinead.
Except Sinead, yeah, because,
Oh, no, I'm with Alby as well.
Yeah, we are. let's
not sit on the fence.
Yeah, let's not. With that, we should probably say cheers then.
And
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's
been good to speak to you.
And we look forward to seeing you outside the gates of the shop and then hopefully inside the shop in the very near future.
That would be amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers.